So I'm ready to start priming for the day. I'm going to go in and follow my directions, which I've shown in a different video, to prime this print. First thing it's going to do, because I was printing something else before, is the whole extruder is going to go up to its starting height. The base and the extruder both start every print at this starting spots, and then they move from there. When you start to print for the day, you always need to run a prime. What's going to happen is the machine is going to push the clay through. Right now it's got some air pockets in there, and it's eventually going to start squeezing the clay out of the tube. You don't want to start a print until clay is actually in the nozzle, otherwise it won't have anything to print. It'll just print air for a little bit. While it's doing that, while I'm waiting for it to prime, I don't want to go too far away, because as soon as clay starts to come out of here, I want to be done with this prime. When I'm ready to be done with the prime, I'm going to hit the green button, turn off the machine, and get the next part ready, the next print. But I can also be setting up my bottom of on my bat. You can print directly on the bat. I wouldn't recommend without a clay base. I wouldn't recommend printing directly on the bat itself, because your clay is going to stick. So what you want to do is grab a piece of paper. My recommendation is the phone book paper that we have next to the printer. Put it on here. You can also get it wet. I'm going to sneak over here and grab a spray bottle while this is extruding. And you can spritz this, and that wetness will just help it stay down as you start to print. If you want a base on your print, so if you're printing a vase and you would like a bottom on your vase, you can also roll yourself a slab of clay that you put onto this piece of paper. It doesn't have to be wet, and then it'll print directly on that. Either way, you're going to have some cleanup you're going to have to do at the bottom, because the printer is going to print a skirt. It's going to print a bit of extra clay around the bottom. While you are getting this part ready, make sure your bottom is ready. When you roll out a slab, when you make yourself a slab, you can use a slab roller or a rolling pin. You can also just hand make the slab. Remember that this is porcelain clay. We're always printing porcelain clay here, so you want your slab to be porcelain, not stoneware. How do I know when this is done priming? Well, eventually some clay is going to start to come out of here. And it'll take, depending how tightly the machine was set up already, this one was just filled the other day, and so it has as much air as it's ever going to have. When you come into print, you might come into a fresh tube, or you might come into a tube that has been used and retracted. At the end of every print, we run a retract, and that retract will suck up take off the pressure. It will mean that the printer has to be primed again, but that retract won't leave you as much to do. Now, I don't know if you can hear it on the video, but I can hear that the sound of the printer has just stopped. It stopped making noise, or it stopped making the sound that the extruder up at the top the motor at the top makes when it's extruding. That means for whatever reason this printer has stopped doing what it's supposed to. When it does that, and it will do that at some point, I'm going to hit the power button, shut it off, give it a moment to think about what it's done, and then I'm going to turn it back on and do this again. So for whatever reason, this printer, it's a relatively early model of 3D printer for clay, and with that in mind, it's a little bit fussy sometimes. So be patient with it. It will be fussy sometimes, but just shut it off, restart it, and try again. It's now making the sound. I put the prime program in again. It's making the sound again. So while you are working on getting your printer ready for the start of the day, you can already see that with a 2-hour class, some of your time is going to be taken up with getting the printer just behaving, getting it started and ready. So you might come on a day that you're working on the printer and have something else to work on at the same time. Your design in Tinkercad you can continue working on, your print itself, moving that into Simplify 3D, or any other projects that you're working on at the same time, like your mug from the first day, or another project that you're working on. So it will eventually come out. Don't go too far away when you're doing those other things. This is the other reason you may want to print on the same day as your classmates, if everybody comes in, gets this thing primed, the people in between each print don't have to prime again. Eventually what's going to happen is some clay is going to start squirting out the bottom. But I think I'm going to stop this video and leave that to the magic of filmmaking for you to see when it eventually does finish priming.